15 of the world's most elite doctors were rushed into a private hospital to save the life of the only daughter of one of the richest men on earth. She was suffering from a mysterious illness, one that no scan could detect, no blood test could explain, and no treatment could cure. As her condition rapidly declined, the hospital slipped into panic. Specialists argued, machines beeped endlessly, and hope slowly drained from the room. Even the best minds in modern medicine had reached a breaking point. Then something unexpected happened. A 9-year-old black boy, the son of a hospital cleaning lady, noticed something everyone else had overlooked. While experts focused on screens and charts, his quiet observation revealed a detail hidden in plain sight. What he saw didn't just change the fate of one life. It exposed a shocking truth that would leave an entire hospital stunned, proving that sometimes the most powerful insight comes from the person no one thinks to listen to. Before we continue, make sure to like and subscribe if you want more amazing stories that will blow your mind. Now, let's dive into what happened next. The hospital's intensive care unit was a frenzy of activity. Doctors barked orders, nurses dashed back and forth, and machines screamed warnings as Isabella, the young girl at the center of it all, lay motionless under layers of monitoring equipment. Victor Lang, her father, paced anxiously, his usually composed face etched with fear. Money, influence, and the brightest medical minds in the world had failed him, and with each passing second, despair threatened to swallow him whole. Meanwhile, the young boy, Malik, moved quietly along the edges of the ICU. He wasn't supposed to be there. The hospital staff barely noticed him, assuming he was just wandering with his mother, who worked as a cleaner. But Malik had sharp eyes. He had spent countless hours watching people, noticing patterns, and understanding things that adults often overlooked. That day, the chaos of the ICU didn't intimidate him. It sharpened his focus. He noticed the small details: the flicker of a monitor when certain medications were administered, a slight twitch in Isabella's hand that coincided with the change of a specific drip, the way her breathing subtly shifted with the rise and fall of the oxygen mask. To everyone else, these were minor, meaningless movements. To Malik, they were clues, tiny pieces of a puzzle that no one else seemed willing or able to solve. Victor watched in disbelief as the doctors argued over what to do next. Some recommended experimental drugs. Others suggested invasive procedures that carried enormous risk. The room's tension was suffocating, and hope was fading fast. Then, in a quiet moment when no one was paying attention, Malik stepped closer, whispering something to himself that would ultimately change everything. "What is that boy doing here?" one nurse finally asked, noticing him for the first time. "He's just a child," another doctor scoffed, shaking his head. "He can't possibly understand the complexity of this illness." But Malik didn't care. He had seen something others hadn't, and for reasons he didn't fully understand, he felt an urgency to act. He observed Isabella's charts again, connected the subtle patterns in her symptoms, and formulated an idea that was as simple as it was shocking. It wasn't in any textbook. It wasn't taught in medical school. It was pure intuition, sharpened by curiosity and courage. Victor's desperation collided with Malik's quiet insight. While the doctors continued their frantic attempts, Malik pointed to a small, seemingly insignificant detail, a reaction Isabella had shown to a particular medication hours earlier, a pattern that hinted at the real cause of her illness. No one had noticed it because everyone had been looking at the big picture. Malik saw the small picture, the hidden thread everyone else ignored. It was a moment that would change everything. 15 of the world's greatest doctors had failed. A hospital full of experts had reached its breaking point. Yet here was a 9-year-old boy, without a single qualification or credential, standing on the edge of a discovery that could save Isabella's life. And in that moment, something extraordinary began to unfold, a story of courage, observation, and an unthinkable act that would prove that brilliance sometimes comes from the most unexpected places. Malik's eyes darted from the monitors to Isabella's frail body, his mind working faster than anyone in the room could imagine. The doctors were still debating, some shouting over the alarms, others scribbling notes frantically, trying to make sense of the mystery illness. But Malik saw a pattern, a tiny rhythm in Isabella's pulse that matched the timing of a rare allergic reaction to one of the medications she had received days ago. It was subtle, almost invisible, but to him it screamed out the cause. He took a cautious step closer to Victor. "Sir, I think I know what's happening," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Victor turned, surprised, and then confused. He looked at the boy as if he had appeared out of thin air. You know what's wrong with my daughter?" he asked, disbelief in his voice. "I think so," Malik replied. "It's the medicine, not her disease. It's making her body react this way. If we stop it and try this instead, she might recover." He didn't know the exact protocol, but he had seen enough subtle signs to make a guess. The doctors froze. A 9-year-old? Telling them what to do? Dr. Hamilton, the head physician, scoffed at first. "A child has no idea what he's talking about." "Step back," he said firmly. But something in Malik's eyes, the calm certainty, the observation, the fearlessness, made even the most skeptical doctor hesitate. Victor, desperate and exhausted, nodded. "Try it. I don't care what it is, just save her," he begged. His voice cracked with emotion, carrying the weight of every sleepless night and every dollar spent trying to buy a cure that didn't exist. Malik instructed them step by step, pointing out the exact medication to stop and suggesting adjustments to the treatment, based purely on what he had observed. The doctors exchanged uneasy glances, torn between professional pride and the need to act quickly. Time was slipping away. They had already exhausted all conventional options. Finally, Dr. Hamilton sighed and said, "We'll do it your way, temporarily. But if this fails, it's on us." Malik nodded, heart pounding, knowing there was no margin for error. Every second counted. As the medications were adjusted, the room held its collective breath. Nurses whispered encouragement to Isabella, while Victor gripped her hand tighter than ever before. Minutes passed like hours. Then, slowly, almost imperceptibly, her breathing eased. The beeping of the monitors began to stabilize. Color returned to her cheeks. Her tiny fingers twitched, not out of weakness, but in response to the relief coursing through her body. The doctors stared in stunned silence. This shouldn't be working," one muttered. "I don't understand it." Malik simply observed quietly, knowing that what he had seen, and the intuition that had guided him, was real. The solution had been hiding in plain sight, and his attention to detail had uncovered it. Victor felt tears sting his eyes as he looked at Malik. You just saved my daughter's life," he said, his voice shaking with gratitude. How is this possible?" Malik shrugged, humble as ever. "I just noticed something no one else did," he said softly. There was no pride in his voice, only calm certainty. And at that moment, everyone in the room, doctors, nurses, and Victor himself, realized that brilliance isn't always measured by degrees or experience. Sometimes, it comes from paying attention, caring deeply, and daring to speak up when everyone else is too intimidated to act. Word of Malik's insight spread quickly through the hospital. Staff who had doubted him now watched in awe as Isabella's condition stabilized. Even Dr. Hamilton, a man who had never been wrong in his career, approached the boy with newfound respect. "You have a gift," he admitted. "Something we could never teach." Malik simply nodded, already thinking about the next steps for Isabella's recovery. Victor refused to leave Malik's side. "I have to do something for you," he said. "I don't care what it is, you saved my daughter. You saved her life." Malik, ever humble, shook his head. "I just did what I thought was right," he replied. "I only want her to get better." The hospital that had been filled with panic and despair now buzzed with a mixture of relief and awe. Nurses whispered stories of the boy who had outsmarted the world's top doctors. Patients and staff alike felt inspired, reminded that sometimes the smallest voices can make the biggest difference. And yet, for Malik, this was just the beginning. Saving Isabella was one thing, but understanding why she had become so critically ill in the first place and preventing it from happening again required more investigation, more observation, and more courage. While others rested, Malik remained vigilant, quietly noting every detail, determined not to let anyone else fall victim to an unseen threat. That day, the hospital learned a lesson no amount of education or wealth could teach, that sometimes hope and brilliance come from the most unexpected places, and the person the world overlooks may be the one to change everything. Even after Isabella's condition stabilized, Malik couldn't rest. He knew the danger wasn't completely over. The mysterious illness that had nearly taken her life had to have a root cause, and he was determined to find it. The doctors, still shaken by how a 9-year-old had solved what they couldn't, were reluctantly willing to let him observe. After all, he had saved a life. They owed him that much. Malik began spending hours in the hospital, quietly watching, noting, and asking questions. He observed every detail: the foods Isabella was eating, the timing of medications, the subtle reactions of her body to even minor changes in environment. No one had ever done this before. Every expert had relied on charts, scans, and textbooks. Malik relied on observation, intuition, and an uncanny ability to connect seemingly unrelated details. Victor, overwhelmed by gratitude, insisted Malik be given the best resources he could afford. Malik's mother, who had always worked long shifts cleaning hospital floors, watched in amazement as her son, who had once struggled to buy school supplies, now had access to tools, books, and advice from some of the most brilliant minds in medicine. Yet Malik remained humble, focused only on the girl lying in front of him. It was during one quiet afternoon that Malik noticed something peculiar. Isabella's symptoms worsened slightly after a visit from the hospital's air conditioning maintenance team. The temperature fluctuations seemed minor, but Malik's eyes caught a pattern. Every time the room became slightly colder, her pulse would spike, her breathing would grow shallow, and subtle rashes would appear along her arms. No doctor had noticed this because it seemed insignificant at first glance. But Malik knew better. He explained his observation to Dr. Hamilton. "I think it's environmental," Malik said, pointing to the timing of Isabella's episodes. "Something in the room, maybe the air itself, is triggering her body." Dr. Hamilton, still grappling with the idea that a child could be making accurate medical observations, frowned. "Environmental? That's unorthodox. But let's investigate." They examined every element of Isabella's room: air filters, cleaning agents, even the new paint on the walls. And then Malik noticed it. A faint smell, almost imperceptible, coming from the cleaning solution that had been used near her bed. It was a chemical that could trigger severe allergic reactions in certain individuals, something so rare that most doctors wouldn't think to test for it. But Malik's intuition, combined with meticulous observation, had led him straight to it. Victor's eyes widened as Malik explained. "You mean it wasn't the illness? It was something in her environment making her sick?" Malik nodded. "Yes, sir. She's reacting to a chemical. Remove it, and she should recover fully." The doctors were hesitant but agreed to follow Malik's lead. The cleaning solution was replaced, the air circulation was adjusted, and for the first time in weeks, Isabella's symptoms began to improve steadily. Color returned to her cheeks, her energy slowly came back, and even the nurses were amazed at the rapid turnaround. Word of Malik's discovery spread like wildfire. Colleagues who had once doubted him now watched in admiration. He had not only saved a life, but uncovered the hidden cause of a mysterious condition that had stumped some of the best doctors in the world. Victor couldn't contain his gratitude, insisting that Malik be honored publicly. "This boy didn't just save my daughter," he told the hospital staff. "He reminded us all why observation, care, and courage matter more than degrees or status." Malik, however, remained focused on Isabella. He had no interest in fame or recognition. For him, the goal was simple: save a life, uncover the truth, and make sure this never happened again. And in that mission, he found himself facing a new challenge. Even as Isabella improved, Malik discovered that the chemical reaction was only part of the story. Her body had been weakened by weeks of stress, medications, and near-death experiences. To fully recover, she needed not only medical support but emotional and psychological care, a holistic approach no one had initially considered. Malik realized that true healing wasn't just about curing the immediate symptoms. It was about understanding the entire person. He suggested a plan to the doctors: gentle nutrition, physical therapy, and careful monitoring, combined with creating a calm and positive environment for Isabella. Victor, overwhelmed by relief and hope, implemented Malik's recommendations immediately. Slowly, Isabella regained strength, her laughter returning, her curiosity shining through once more. Through it all, Malik became more than just a boy who saved a life. He became a symbol of courage, insight, and the power of paying attention when everyone else overlooks the small details. His story reminded the world that brilliance isn't always found in titles or experience. Sometimes, it's found in those who dare to notice, to question, and to act when no one else will. As Isabella's health improved, Malik's role in her recovery became more visible, and not everyone was pleased. Some of the hospital staff, particularly a few senior doctors, struggled to accept that a 9-year-old had not only saved a life, but uncovered the hidden cause of a mysterious illness that had stumped the world's best minds. Whispers circulated in the halls, tinged with jealousy and disbelief. "Did you see that boy? He's just a kid," one doctor muttered to a colleague. "How can he know more than we do?" Yet despite the skepticism, Malik remained undeterred. He had never been motivated by recognition or praise. His focus was on Isabella's well-being and learning as much as he could from this unprecedented experience. He spent hours observing her, noting every subtle improvement or setback, and suggesting small adjustments to her care. Each insight he offered proved accurate, further solidifying his reputation among those willing to listen. Victor Lang, overwhelmed by gratitude, continued to support Malik in every way possible. He arranged for resources that no child in Malik's position had ever seen: books, access to medical journals, and opportunities to consult with specialists who were eager to learn from the boy's uncanny observations. Yet Malik remained humble, always attributing his discoveries to careful observation and paying attention to details that others overlooked. Malik also noticed something else. While Isabella's physical health was returning, the trauma of her near-death experience had left her emotionally fragile. She was afraid of hospitals, wary of medical procedures, and anxious about relapsing. Many would have dismissed these concerns as trivial compared to her life-threatening illness, but Malik understood that true healing required addressing the mind and spirit as well as the body. He spent time talking with her gently, helping her regain confidence, and encouraging small victories, taking a walk in the hospital garden, playing simple games, or even laughing at stories Malik shared. Slowly, Isabella began to respond. Her fear began to fade, replaced by curiosity and the will to recover. The bond between Malik and Isabella grew stronger, not just as a healer and patient, but as friends who had shared a life-altering experience. However, not everyone was happy with this new dynamic. Some senior doctors felt their authority was being undermined. Rumors spread about how a mere child had shown up the experts, and a few influential voices within the hospital began pressuring Victor to rein in Malik's involvement. The tension escalated, and Malik realized that saving Isabella's life was only part of the challenge. He now had to navigate skepticism, ego, and bureaucracy while continuing to help her recover. One day, Dr. Hamilton called Malik into his office, his expression conflicted. "Malik, I have to admit, I underestimated you," he began, his voice tinged with frustration and admiration. "But some of my colleagues, they're not convinced. They say we can't let a child make decisions about patient care. What do you say to that?" Malik looked him straight in the eye, calm but firm. "I'm not here to replace anyone," he said. "I'm here to notice what others overlook and help Isabella get better. That's all that matters." His words, simple yet powerful, left Dr. Hamilton speechless. Even the most skeptical doctor couldn't argue with the results. Isabella was improving, and no one could deny Malik's role in it. As the days passed, Isabella grew stronger. She laughed more, played, and even insisted on reading books with Malik. The hospital that had once been a place of panic and despair now hummed with renewed hope and admiration. Staff who had doubted Malik became eager to learn from him, observing how he connected details that often went unnoticed, and taking note of his meticulous approach. Victor, who had watched his daughter teeter on the brink of death, could hardly believe the transformation. He now considered Malik not just a hero, but a vital part of their lives. "You've changed everything for us," he told Malik one evening, his voice heavy with emotion. "You saved my daughter, and in doing so, you've reminded everyone here of what truly matters: observation, courage, and the will to act when no one else does." Despite the challenges and skepticism, Malik remained steadfast. He had learned that brilliance wasn't about credentials or wealth. It was about paying attention, thinking differently, and daring to act in the face of doubt. His journey with Isabella taught the hospital, the doctors, and even Victor a lesson that money and degrees could never buy. Sometimes, the most extraordinary insight comes from the person the world least expects. And as Malik continued to guide Isabella toward full recovery, the bond between the two grew into something stronger than medicine itself. A friendship born from courage, empathy, and the unshakable belief that no one should ever be ignored, regardless of their age, background, or social status. With each passing day, Isabella grew stronger. Her laughter returned to the halls of the hospital, replacing the tension and fear that had once filled every corner. She played, studied, and even began helping younger patients in small ways, inspired by the boy who had saved her life. Malik, ever humble, stayed by her side, not as a teacher or authority figure, but as a friend and observer, quietly guiding her toward full recovery. News of Malik's role spread far beyond the hospital walls. Social media buzzed with stories of the 9-year-old boy who had outsmarted the world's top doctors. Local news outlets interviewed Victor, who could barely contain his pride and gratitude. "This boy didn't just save my daughter's life," Victor said, his voice thick with emotion. "He reminded us all of the power of observation, courage, and compassion." Even the skeptical doctors who had once doubted him now approached Malik with respect. They asked questions, sought his insights, and in some cases, admitted that they had never seen anyone, child or adult, analyze a situation with such clarity. Dr. Hamilton, once one of his harshest critics, publicly acknowledged Malik's extraordinary gift. "Malik has changed the way we think about medicine and observation," he said. "He's a reminder that true brilliance often comes from the most unexpected places." Despite the fame and recognition, Malik remained grounded. He never asked for awards, money, or attention. For him, the reward was seeing Isabella healthy, smiling, and thriving. Yet his story inspired countless others, children, teenagers, and adults who realized that curiosity, courage, and careful observation could make a real difference in the world. People began to see that age, background, and social status didn't define someone's potential to change lives. Isabella's recovery was complete. She walked out of the hospital strong, confident, and full of life, holding Malik's hand. Together, they had faced fear, uncertainty, and near-death experiences, and together, they had emerged victorious. Victor could barely believe his eyes. His daughter was alive, healthy, and happy, thanks to the determination of a boy no one had taken seriously at first. At a small ceremony held in the hospital, Victor gave Malik a heartfelt tribute. "You've not only saved my daughter, but you've saved hope itself," he said. "You've shown us that listening, observing, and daring to act can change the world. We are forever in your debt." Malik simply smiled, shy but proud, knowing that the real reward was the life he had helped save. The hospital staff, once filled with doubt and skepticism, now embraced a new way of thinking. They learned to value insight over authority, curiosity over hierarchy, and courage over credentials. Malik had shown them that the world is full of unseen potential, and that sometimes the most profound solutions come from those who are overlooked. As for Malik, life continued, but he was no longer just a quiet boy in the shadows. He became a symbol of hope, courage, and ingenuity. Children everywhere who heard his story began to believe in themselves, understanding that no matter their age or circumstances, they could make a difference. Malik had not only saved a life, he had inspired a generation to think differently, to pay attention, and to act when it mattered most. And as Isabella looked up at him one last time before leaving the hospital for good, she whispered, "Thank you, Malik. You didn't just save me, you changed my world." Malik smiled softly. "No, Isabella. You did most of the work. I just helped you see it." That day, the hospital learned a lesson worth more than all the wealth in the world. Life can be saved by observation, courage, and heart, and sometimes, the person you least expect can change everything.